Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about Aristotle. So, who is Aristotle? What is his methodology, and what are all the definitions he had given? Okay, so Aristotle, he lived from 384 BC to 322 BC. Okay, he is a disciple of Plato. And then to Indians, he's also known as the tutor of Alexander the Great. Okay, he's also known as the tutor of Alexander the Great. And then he has written dozens of treatises. Okay, not only one or two, but dozens of treatises, but only two are extant. They are Poetics and Rhetoric. These two are the treatises. And then the art of poetry, that is this poetic and rhetoric. The poetics deal with the art of poetry, and rhetoric deals with the art of speaking. And then rhetoric does not deal with the literature. Okay, poetry attracted great attention than the rhetoric. Okay, and then Aristotle doesn't leave the readers in the doubt. Okay, poetic talks about the principles of poetic art. It is derived from Greek literature, and then Aristotle concentrate only on the Greek literature or earlier literature. And then he was inspired by the successful poets during earlier time. And then poetics and rhetoric made the good poet and good orator, because the writers mainly concentrate and inspire by poetics rather than speaking. Okay, and then um, he says, um, he calls the poet as an imitator. Okay, he considers about the nature of poetic art. He calls the poet as an imitator, like a painter or any other artist, because they imitate one of the three objects, that is the things as they were, or the things as they are said or thought to be, or things or ought to be. Okay, in the three things, they are imitating one of the three things. Okay, in other words, we can say what is past, present, or what is commonly believed and what is idle and all. Okay, and then Plato also says that it is a natural pleasure in imitation. Okay, we will get natural pleasure when we imitate something, which is an inborn instinct in man. Okay, it is not trained, but it is an inborn instinct. And then he says that as a child imitate from other things. We can say a child will imitate the things which we do. Okay, it gives some kind of pleasure to the children. Likewise, when a poet imitates something, it will give pleasure both to him and also to the readers. And then Plato says that poetry is twice removed from reality. Okay, um, Aristotle compares the poetry and history. Okay, because poetry talks about future, but history will talk about person, things, place, and the things which had already happened. That is about past. Then poetry is more philosophical than history. Poetry expresses the universal truths in general. History talk about a particular thing, place, or situations. Okay, it picturizes the real thing. And then poetry is not only mere reproduction which is applied in truth, but it is a universal thing. Okay, and then poetry should give the pleasure. As I have already told, a poet is writing for imitation, then poetry should give some kind of pleasure. And then catharsis is an important element when we talk about drama. Okay, because when one reads poetry, when somebody is reading poetry, he will emotionally connect that poetry with him. Okay, so it arouses an emotion of pity or fear inside the reader. Okay, so and then Plato says that it is a harmful for our minds. Okay, it is a harmful thing for our minds. If we have to have a more pity for others, then it will be difficult. If we have more pity for us, then it will be difficult for us to control that emotions, then it will affect us. So the emotion is a dangerous thing for us, like that. Aristotle is considering. And then he also says that if we have fear, we should not have such kind of fear. Okay. Milton considers this emotional appeal as something calm of mind. Okay, so the perspectives of the critics will differ from person to person. Okay, and then there will be two kinds of actions. When we take tragedy, there will be two kinds of actions, that is the noble actions of good men or the mean actions of bad men. Okay, then the noble actions, no, that the noble actions of good men will portray the epic tragedy. Then the mean actions of bad man will be portrayed in comical satire. Okay, satirical comedy. Okay, the actions of bad men, the mean actions of bad men will be portrayed in satirical comedy. That is, tragedy imitates the noble actions of good men, comedy imitates the action of bad men. And then Aristotle considers tragedy as superior to epic. Why so? Because while writing tragedy, the writer should be conscious, but epic has no restrictions in length, and writer can keep on writing about something. Example, for epic we can take Paradise Lost. It is divided into 10 to 12 books. Okay, so the writer's imagination is not restricted like the writer, those who are writing the play. And then tragedy is short and it has some kind of music and spectacular effects, but the epic doesn't have all such things. Okay, complete with a beginning and a middle and an end. Okay, Aristotle says that imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude, and then it brings the artistic ornament like harmony and rhythm. Everything should be revealed only through the action, not by narration. And then action comprises all human activities, including the deeds, thoughts, and feelings of human beings. It should be complete with a beginning and middle and an end. Okay, that is, beginning is before the audience or the readers doesn't need to be told anything to understand the story. Okay, if something is uh, if the beginning is given, uh, then the beginning should be in a satisfactory manner. Okay, and then after the beginning, then it takes place a middle. When the events take place and they reach the climax part of that story, then it will reach the end. Okay, if in any play the beginning cannot be put in the middle, or we cannot um, place the end in the beginning position, it has to be in a sequential coherent way. Only then the readers or the audience will be able to understand the coherency of the play, or else it will um or else the readers or audience will consider it as an illogical one, because we will not get the complete sense of the play. Okay, and then he has given two characteristics, right? Aristotle's ornament and forms of action, it meant to rhythm, harmony, and song. Rhythm and harmony, we can see it in verse. In tragedy, everything reveals only through action, because narration is not happening, so everything will be revealed only through action. But in the epic, only the poet will be the narrator. Okay, in tragedy, character expresses their own feel. In tragedy, the dramatist cannot express his feeling, only the characters will reveal his feeling. In epic we can see the narration, but in the and also in epic, while narrating, the narrator is free to express his own ideas. Okay, and then tragedy written not merely to imitate men, but to imitate men in action. Okay, Aristotle finds constituent parts, that the constituent parts in tragedy, that is, they are plot, character, thought, action, language, song, spectacle, and all. Okay, the plot or the arrangement of the incidents, right, it is the chief part of tragedy. Tragedy is an imitation of men and action of life. Okay, to the question whether a plot makes a tragedy or character, Aristotle says that without action there is no tragedy. So he says that only action makes a plot. For character, he says character determines men's qualities. It is their action that they are happy or they are sad. Okay, so tragedy written written not merely to imitate men but to imitate men in action. So in while doing a particular action, what on what manner they are doing, that and all will be revealed. Okay, and then epic narrates about the character. It brings out imagination. The tragedy in tragedy, the characters will be revealed themselves. Okay, only plot is more important than the character, because character is a quality of man, but plot imitates the mental behavior of character. That is why he says that song is needed for artistic quality of language. So that expresses the thoughts of the character and the meaning of the play, the song. So the literary part is over. For a spectacle, that is audience or stage representation, it is not connected with poetry. Okay, because when the play is enacted, there is no need for this song, but it is needed for literary part. Okay, it is the work of stage mechanic, but it constitutes the manner in which the tragedy presented to the public. Okay, the power of tragedy is felt even apart from representation and characters. In epic, the readers can read. In epic, the readers can read, but in play, the narrator will narrate all the characters. But in tragedy, all the characters will reveal themselves. Okay, and then he has talked about unities, three unities. Okay, the plot is the main soul of a tragedy. Okay, and then unity of time, unity of action, and unity of place. Okay, what does mean by unity of action? Unity of action in the sense, the language should be interconnected with one another. There should be some kind of coherence between the actions. The later action should have some connection with the former action. Only then we can understand the coherency of the story, or else we will miss out the continuation. Okay, and then unity of time, that is, a play had to be confined within 24 hours or a single day. It should not exceed a day, a single day. And then unity of place, if the play had taken place in various places, how can we remember that? We will confuse with the places, and it will not be good to have numerous places in a single play. So the places have to be confined. The writer have to narrate all the incidences by considering that it is happening in a single place. That is what unity of place is. Okay, so he talks about unity of action, unity of time, and unity of place. Complication or denouement, and then we can divide the plot into complication or denouement. That is, the complication will tie the event into a tangled knot, and denouement will untie the knot. Okay, the complication includes all the action from the beginning to the point where it takes a turn for good or evil. The denouement will give the turning point. Okay, and then peripecia and anagnoses. The plot may be either it may be simple or it might be complex. Peripecia, that is the reversal of situation. Peripecia is nothing but reversal of the situation, and anagnosis is nothing but recognition, that is, or discovery. Okay, anagnosis means a change from ignorance to knowledge. Both peripecia and anagnosis, please, because they are the element of surprise. Okay, so they both will please. The tragedy should be arranged on complex manner, but not on simple plan. Okay, they should be arranged in a complex manner but not in a simple manner. And then the tragic plot should have all the elements. It should not miss out any one of the elements. And then to talk about tragic hero, the tragedy will deal with only one character and not more than one. Okay, and then the aim of the tragedy is pity and fear. If the villain get fortune, it seems bad to the audience. He's getting the reward and what for what he's doing, because he is doing bad things but he's getting reward. Whereas if hero gets sufferings, it creates some kind of pity and fear to the audience, because he is doing only good things but he is made to suffer. Okay, and then what are the observations he had made on comedy? The roots of comedy lie deep in satirical verse and the tragedy in epic. The origin of satirical verse is earlier. Rhetoric songs sung in honor of Dionysus, who is the god of fertility. And then epic poetry, it was originated from the earlier hymns to the gods and the praises of famous men. Tragedy follows its parent forms. Epic poetry and the hymns represent men as nobles than they are. And so comedy also follows its parent forms. Satirical verse and phallic songs, they represent the men as verse they are. Okay, sinner is satire and the sin is comedy. Then Aristotle doesn't mean who are wicked or vicious, but merely men who have some defect or ugliness which is not painful or destructive. That the law, that is, in satire, the laughter should not hurt the spectator. Malicious pleasure should be avoided. And then Aristotle disagrees with Plato. Okay, the pleasure arises not from personal but a general foible. And then it causes no pain either to the victim or to the spectator. Okay, because comedy shares the generalizing power of poetry. It represents not what was happened but what may happen. This is born out by its choice of a general and not an individual foible. Example, to say some kind of bad things, we can say brain worm, backbite, and all. Okay, they should represent more or less universal rather than individual frailties. And then tragedy mode is superior to epic mode. We all agree with that point. Okay, and then the epic is earlier. Okay, it grew out old hymns, and it grew out of the old hymns to the gods and the songs. In its nature, no, the epic, it resembles a tragedy because it has same structure, both the epic and tragedy. Even though it has tragedy mode is superior to epic. The epic and tragedy or improbability, that is, poets are tempted to use it because it is pleasing. The great scope of epic is imagination, but in tragedy, it is perceived only by the eye, invisible to the eye in the epic. Visibility will make the audience to attract and absorb. Then Aristotle's observation that the poet should prefer probable impossibilities to improbable impossibilities. Okay, so the believable false to the unbelievable true. That is what they will expect in poetry. Okay, so in this way, epic and tragedy are somewhat similar, but in some way, epic is different from tragedy because it imitates life by narration and not by dramatic action and speech. It admits great length than tragedy. It cannot include episode, plot, and all. Epic can include episode plot, which is relevant for the main plot, but tragedy cannot. Epic has an advantage that it will be written in a grander way, but tragedy, it will be written in a way the audience can enjoy. Tragedy deals only with characters, that is only with few characters, but epic deals with more number of characters. Okay, so these are all the things we should remember when we think about Aristotle. I hope you're all clear with Aristotle. Thank you.